Hey everyone, welcome back. This is a new episode of Fabric Espresso. This is the series about data engineering, data science, and today I pleasure to share that I'm hosting Santhosh, who is joining us directly from Fabric Data Engineering Product Group. Santhosh, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Estra. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me again. Super excited to be back on Fabric Espresso.
That's awesome. So, can you recap what are the recent features from the platform perspective, from the Spark Compute perspective that you with your team specifically shipped?
It's amazing. Actually, it's going to be a lot of features. The monthly blogs are going to be covering these in detail, but some of the key highlights include the latest runtime Fabric, runtime 1.3, which is generally available. The native execution engine, that has been the most exciting thing. So the acceleration that it provides for queries and also additional control for customers to enable or disable it at the query level gives them the flexibility. And we also have some cost optimization features, things like high concurrency for pipelines. So they could share sessions across different notebooks when they are having these scheduled runs within their workspace. And there are also other platform features which we recently announced for general availability, like a couple of months back, for network security, for tenant level private links, and enabling secure connections from Fabric workspaces to data sources through managed private endpoints. So a lot of features across the stack. So I know it's been a while, but super glad to be here and share these updates with you all.
Yes, and all the updates are described as part of our monthly blog post. Every month we publish a very long kind of a book because it has like 100 pages, and there is just a sneak peek about the changes. And you mentioned the topic for today's episode, that is high concurrency mode in Fabric Data Engineering. So I would like to kick off from the context perspective, like what is high concurrency, why we need it, and what is changing, because we recorded the episode about high concurrency mode for notebooks. So
Yes.
what's new?
Yes, we did, and that was a very interesting discussion. And I also heard a lot of feedback from customers after watching the video. The main thing that they asked was, "Hey, now that we have session sharing, so high concurrency mode is more about session sharing, right? Running Spark sessions in a shared mode, not compromising on security. Still, it's still within the same user boundary, and allowing users to get the maximum resource utilization." It also gives them advantages in terms of balancing their performance and also getting a higher resource utilization and getting to run more with what they're paying for. The main feedback that I got, or I would say more of an ask from different viewers of your channel, was when can we get this for scheduled jobs? Because yes, interactive queries are the way in which users initially start working on building their data products or standardized entities in any data engineering platform. But then the actual concurrency kicks in when they have these massive loads that they process and they transform these data at scale through pipelines for their production scenarios. We have heard a lot of feedback and ask from different enterprise customers. So super happy to like share and walk you all through in this episode. So let's I know it's been a while since we talked about high concurrency, right? So thinking of high concurrency, there are three main points that I would want to land. First thing that I would emphasize is security. The session sharing boundary is always within a single user's context. There is no way that multiple users could land on the same cluster. So avoiding all the threat vectors where they could exfiltrate tokens or data access paths. The next one is how this would actually allow users to multitask or concurrently use the same session. So allowing them with faster session start. So say customers are going with larger pools, they are having custom jars or different libraries. The subsequent sessions are going to be using these if they match this criteria, and they're going to have like a 5-second session start experience, giving them the perf boost, eliminating the session start duration. The next one is, of course, It's going to be cost effective because you're going to be only running a single Spark application where you could actually run like 5 jobs at once, giving you the benefit of savings on COGS. That said, um, just a recap on the high concurrency for notebooks that we talked about in Fabric Espresso a couple of months back. This is generally available. Users can go into the notebook and they could select an existing high concurrency session if they already have one running. If not, they could start a new one. Once they have started a new one, the subsequent sessions that get added to this are going to be starting within like 5 seconds, which gives them the advantage in terms of faster session start. And once these are running, they will be able to see these runs through the monitoring hub experience. In the monitoring hub, all of these notebooks are going to be packed into the same session, but in the related tab as a column option, users will be able to see each and every job execution, each and every statement that has been executed from notebook. It gets attributed to the notebook from which it is being run within the Spark application. The session start experience is going to be only for scenarios where customers go with custom pools. If they're using starter pools, they are anyway going to get the 5 second session start experience. So it will be in the cases where they go with large or extra large or small pools for their EDAs or exploratory data analysis scenarios. Moving on to high concurrency for notebooks in pipelines. So in pipelines, users leverage notebook activities for their scheduled runs. And this is considered as one of the most used approach for enterprise customers for orchestrating and managing their production workloads across different data sources to like ingest data from different sources and transform them in their lake house. Enabling this experience is going to be super simple. The high concurrency setting is available as part of the workspace settings. I'll show you in a bit how you could actually try it. So when it's enabled, what happens is every Spark session is going to be capable of sharing subsequent notebooks. Unlike interactive notebook sessions where users actually have to go and choose and opt in and select which session to choose from, it's not going to be the same for background jobs or like scheduled runs, right? Because no one's going to be watching these. The system automatically packs them based on the session matching criteria. The criteria is going to be the same as interactive notebooks, where the notebook should have the same default lakehouse, the file system dependency, and should be within the same user boundary, of course, and the same workspace boundary. And it should also have the same compute configurations and library management dependencies. Now, I've also heard this from other users saying that they would want to have a little bit more control on which are the notebooks that they would want to group together. They don't want all the notebooks to be shared in a common manner. There could be certain notebooks which would have different SLA requirements or performance requirements, right? So we also have the session tag feature. You can see in the GIF, it's available as part of the advanced settings options within the notebook activity. Once you specify a session tag, the session tag also becomes a matching criteria. So a session with the same session tag is going to be able to host other notebooks that are coming in with the same session tag. So it gives more additional control for users to pack and group these notebooks. With that said, let me quickly show how users can enable this experience.
So I have a Fabric workspace. Now I go to the workspace settings. As a first step, I enable the high concurrency mode. I see the high concurrency mode option from the Spark settings. Navigate to the high concurrency tab, enable the high concurrency mode for pipelines. Now after I save the Spark settings, now navigate to a pipeline that I have created here, which is going to be used for this test. So in this pipeline, I actually have a for each activity, which has a set of notebooks that are going to be executed concurrently. As part of these notebooks, in the settings, you can see under the advanced settings tab, there's an option called as session tag. Now I'm going to specify a string or a GUID that I would want to use to pack these sessions together. Let me name this as high concurrency session. Once I save it, I do the same for all the notebooks. Now that I've saved, I'm going to start triggering this pipeline. We can see that the runs are now being triggered. Now you can see all these applications that are running are running with the same session ID, which means that they're actually shared. And you can see that notebook 3, notebook 2, and notebook 1 are concurrently executing. When I click onto this session, you can see it's going to have the same session ID. And when I navigate to the notebook tab, I'll also be able to see the different notebook statements that are being triggered and that are being processed.
Santhosh, thanks a lot for doing the demo. Now, the best part, a few questions. So,
Sure.
for sure, you convinced me to enable it because of costs. Instead of paying for multiple sessions, I'm paying for one which I can reuse. So, cost optimization. But now, convince me it's secure.
Yes. So let's talk more about security part, right? So anytime, as I mentioned, the session sharing boundary is still within the same user context. So if you and me are in the same workspace, say you start a Spark session, you started as high concurrency, or you're running notebooks, it's going to use your identity. I also trigger the same workspace. I trigger the same pipeline, keeping everything else the same. What would happen is your Spark sessions are still going to be like dedicated to yourself. So there's no way in which I would be able to like run my code or run the pipeline, the same pipeline that you're using to inject myself into your Spark session. So it is always dedicated. So the secrets or tokens that you manage within your Spark session is still going to be protected, and it's not going to be exposed to other users who are using this feature or having their scheduled runs running in a shared mode in any case.
Makes sense. Now, this is about the user, right? As a user, I can share, you reuse the same session. Again, we ship that for notebook now for data pipelines. If I'm a user who is working in, let's assume that like multiple places, or I have multiple workspaces, this is the typical job of system integrators, right? Then is that functionality bounded to the workspace as well? So to the user within the workspace, or to the user but within the multiple workspaces? If you can clarify that.
The control is more at the workspace level. So in this case, I would recommend the user to actually enable this setting in all workspaces. In cases where they would want dedicated sessions, I would recommend the users use session tag to have dedicated runs. And in other scenarios, they still get the maximum utilization through this session sharing feature, which is done by default, right? So you still get to optimize on cost and also get to trade in for your price performance based on your priority. Like for certain jobs, you want them to be dedicated, put them on a dedicated session tag. So it runs in its isolated mode. It is not sharing resources with any other notebooks.
Makes sense. And just to confirm, it works for also data science part, data
Yes.
engineering and data science.
Yes.
Awesome. And for there is a new functionality that we announced recently, Python notebooks. So a notebook without Spark runtime, just with Python clear minimalistic setup. Then for that functionality, because there is no Spark session, then we do not have to enable anything because this feature high concurrency works for Apache Spark sessions.
That is correct. Yes.
Good.
It is for Spark sessions. And since this is more at the session context level, there are scenarios where customers could have like different code, different languages within the cell. If it's still running within the Spark context, then the sharing applies.
Is that language agnostic?
Yes, it is.
Are there any implications related to security features like a managed workspace?
No, actually, in this case, it would give you benefit, I would say, because with managed VNets, another customer feedback that we have been hearing is more in terms of slow session starts because they don't get starter pool because it's in a shared tenant model. Happy to discuss more about this in a more dedicated call for like network security. But in this case, there's more of a workaround. Users can create Spark sessions and also have the subsequent sessions are going to be faster, so they'll be able to mimic the session starter pool experience in managed VNet enabled workspaces through high concurrency mode. So that's a secure way of still getting this, but the first session is going to pay the price for like initial session start of 3 minutes.
And regarding the pricing, are there any additional costs associated
Not
with
at all.
enabling it?
Not at all. It's
So
only more in terms of cost benefits that they would get.
So why not? Again, what's the reason not to enable it? So we encourage all of you to try, to test, and to enable it because it's just time and cost saving for you. Santhosh, thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot for sharing. Can't wait to record a session about network security. Yes, again, security is our fundament. That's our priority we are focusing on. And that's thanks to it, we are building a trust with the biggest customers around the world. So for all who are watching us, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. And remember to leave a comment, remember to leave a suggestion, question, hit the like button. And until the next time, just enable high concurrency mode and pay less. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Esther. Thanks again for having me. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
it.